Hi, welcome to the Golden Storyteller. Welcome back for those who follow our channel across media. We do YouTube, a podcast, and of course, sometimes online streaming with interviews. My name is Rex, and I'm your host, and I've got another episode for you today. And I want to talk about my memories about Tucker Gulch. Now, Tucker Gulch has a nice trail in Golden now. This is what it looks like for those who are participating on YouTube. Those who are on podcasts probably need to go to YouTube to take a look. So Tucker Gulch has a rich history in Golden, especially for the floods, and I have some specific memories in regards to that. But first, I want to give you a little bit of detail and history about Tucker Gulch. Tucker Gulch is the drainage creek or drainage from the Golden Gate Canyon, and most of the time it's dry or fairly dry. In most cases, my memories, it was mostly a small trickle type stream, and it depended on the type of year and when the moisture was falling in the Golden and Golden Gate Canyon area. Now, Tucker Gulch has a rich history of floods, and those floods started out, first recorded history was clear back in the 1860s. And first, it was flooded in 1864. On the screen here is a photo from July 24th of 1896. But I want to talk about a couple other the floods just to give you some dates because there is a history because Tucker Gulch has flooded many times. So the first one that was recorded was in 1864. I'm sure it flooded prior to that. The area was settled in 1859. So the first one that was on record was in 1864, followed by 1872, 1888, the one that's depicted here in the picture of 1896, 1933, 1941, 1948, 1965, which is a special one for me because I was actually born the morning of the big flood in 1965 that not only flooded Tucker Gulch, but flooded Clear Creek and many other rivers and streams and drainages along the Front Range in the huge rainstorm that we had overnight on July 24th and the morning and day of July 25th. Again, it flooded again in 1973, and then the most historical one from flooding is 1978. In 1965, the city of Golden and the geological, the Corps of Engineers finally basically put a channel in for Tucker Gulch because it had this history of flooding. During the 1965 flood, quite a bit of damage was done along Ford Street. In this picture, for those who are watching on YouTube today, there is quite a bit of damage here to Ford Street, and you can see the Coors porcelain plant. This is a picture that looks like it was taken looking south towards into Golden along Ford Street there, almost standing under the bridge, which would be Colorado 58, for those familiar with the area. So Tucker Gulch had a really rich history for this, but for me, I had some memories. I had a good friend, Joe. And of course, in our podcast, we always leave off last names, but if you know that I was a graduate of the Golden High School class of 1983, those who know anybody from those classes will always remember some of these names. So Joe, he lived up the street on Garden Street, just north towards North Table Mountain, and his backyard backed up to Tucker Gulch, so we had easy access. My good friend Joe and then Ed. Ed lived up the hill, so just as the hill started to go up Ford Street there, heading north towards Highway 93, Ed lived there, so he could just drop down. Then there was myself and our good friend Rick, who lived up on North Table Mountain. And so we always used to go down and play in the creek, and we would play in the creek, and we built up some dams. And we were always damming the doggone thing up. I had an uncle who came out to Colorado from Topeka, Kansas in mid 1970s. And my dad, he came out to camp for like a month. And my dad, I don't even remember the location, it was up in the mountains somewhere, helped him build a dam to back up a creek. And he had a pipe in the dam that allowed the creek to continue to flow, but he could still back up the creek and allow him to make it so he could kind of swim around and bathe or whatever. I'm not sure what he did. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if my dad had permission to do this, but he did. So it gave me the idea from my Uncle Quinlan's visit out here when he spent almost a month out in the Colorado mountains, was to go ahead and we would dam up the creek there in Tucker Gulch. Now, no one ever really paid attention to it because we really weren't, doing anything harm because Tucker Gulch really had not much flow. It was really a drainage gully and a drainage ditch. But we used to back it up so much that we could actually wade in our little dam pools almost up to waist deep. We got to be pretty deep. So we would dam it up, and then somebody would always come along and seem and destroy our dams. But we had the pipe going through the dam, so the water continued to flow, so people wouldn't get suspicious about us. But literally, right there in Tucker Gulch, along Garden Street, about 3/4 of the way up the street, there in Joe's backyard, which was adjacent to the creek, we had these series of ponds. Now, I remember in 1978 when it flooded, we had a really big rainstorm. And back when I grew up in Golden, we used to get thermal thunderstorms all the time that would come into the valley, forming in the west and then coming down into the Golden Valley. And very frequently, they would dump considerable amounts of rain and sometimes hail. In fact, I can remember quite a significant hailstorm that came right down the valley there in '83, in the summer of 1983. But in '78, when it flooded, I believe for sort of the last recorded time, the creek was really running high. And I can remember riding my bicycle, the bicycle I got from Charlie. I'll tell you the story about my Charlie cool chopper bike sometime. But my friends, Joe and Ed and Rick and I, all went to the edge of the creek there and stood on the bridge. And I can remember watching it flow. And while it's a tiny little drainage, that flood waters just seemed to be this huge, huge amount of water. And we were scared and terrified of it because we realized we played in it quite a bit. And here the water was several feet deep and probably 15 feet wide as it was gushing down the gully there along the 7th Street Bridge just before Colorado 58. So again, we played in the creek quite a bit. It was sort of an area where we would run up and down. The rail extensions into the Coors porcelain plant came across there, so there was a natural bridge in addition to the 7th Street Bridge and then the others, and then the creek followed along and drains into Clear Creek. So today it looks like this over there at the Tucker Gulch Trail. These pictures are taken very close to where there used to be a trailer park that was right there at the edge of Clear Creek, which is now a park there, where Tucker Gulch met Clear Creek. And we would go down and play in that also. So I just have fond memories as a kid. Golden was an adventure playground. It was a place where you could roam all around, and Tucker Gulch and our playing around the creek. And I don't think we ever did. In fact, I remember we never played fireworks in the dams we built. These were mostly done in late elementary and junior high school age. So that's my memories of Tucker Gulch. It's there today. It'll always be there. The drainage, thanks to the floods in 1965 and beyond, it's all now in a drainage and controlled. So I don't think there would ever be quite the damage that was done in the earlier floods, like the one of 1896 or 1965. But again, rich history in the city of Golden. So until next time, tune in for another episode from the Golden Storyteller. Of course, please subscribe to the channel so you can be automatically updated when we get new stories. And then you can also get additional information at our website at thegoldenstoryteller.com. And there's ways to contact us. We always look for additional stories about the region, from the region, how to be golden, just kind of anything that fits in that vein. So if you got a great story and want us to tell it, please do. And again, thank you for tuning in to this episode from the Golden Storyteller.